Okay, today's lesson we're going to talk about resentment. We're going to talk about resenting our journey, resenting our bodies, our illnesses, everything. And that is something that I feel is addressed. How do I want to say this? I don't even think it's addressed when it comes to illnesses that are debilitating in a way like when I was diagnosed with RA, with scleroderma, the mixed connective tissue disease, like those are some pretty intense diagnoses. And even then, I don't feel anyone ever really talked to me about the resentment that came with it. So when you have illnesses that are more invisible, and you have illnesses that are hormonal, that or metabolic, that feel like they're there, you feel sick, you feel shitty every day, but it doesn't feel like you should be complaining, or it doesn't feel like it should be that big a deal. It's like there, but it's not there. That's why we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be like normal people, because it feels like there should be no reason as to why our bodies work different, even though logically we know why. So my point to this is, whether you're being diagnosed with something that is life altering in a way that requires daily maintenance, and is something that is, I don't know how to say this without sounding like an asshole, but like a very, very serious illness diagnosis, or whether you're getting diagnosed and you have a doctor throwing the birth control pill at you and saying like, oh, it's just a slight imbalance, whatever the case may be. The resentment that you can feel from that is real, and it needs to be addressed, because regardless, something about yourself, your identity, everything has now changed. So let's see, I want to make sure my chat is open. You guys know me, I love hearing some interacting, some chatting during these kinds of lessons. So make sure you're entering in the chat if something's standing out to you. If there's something you relate to, definitely throw it up in the chat. Okay, so let's go to screen share. Okay, so why do we resent ourselves? Why do we resent our bodies, these illnesses especially? I mean, it seems like an almost ridiculous question to ask, because us who have to deal with our bodies every single day, and the inconveniences they put us through, the pain, the lack of consistency, all of that, pretty much you can break that down into a few categories as to how that resentment, long day, as to how that resentment starts to play out. And I can usually has to do with this right here: exclusion, FOMO, anticipation, or longing. In my experience, at least, and I'm sure there's many, many more, but these are the major ones that I've found. When I was diagnosed as a diabetic, a type 1 diabetic, that was the first one of my big, autoimmune illnesses that came. I was 7 years old, and I couldn't understand why I didn't. I guess at first I was so young that I was able to it's all I knew. It's really all I had to learn, how to live like a type 1 diabetic out the gate. The resentment for me came later on, and it showed up in the form of like, I couldn't understand why I was so different, because I didn't know any different. Obviously I knew other people weren't diabetics, but I just didn't feel like I fit in or I belonged anywhere. Because even if on the surface I fit in or I belonged, I didn't feel that anybody else I could meet could possibly understand what it was like. They couldn't understand that being tired doesn't mean like I'm lazy or I need to take a nap. Feeling a low blood sugar doesn't mean I just want a snack, like little things like that. So you begin to, seclude yourself more. And then as I got older, I realized that I rebelled against my illness. I rebelled against type 1 diabetes, because I was like, F this. Like, I want to eat what I want to eat. I don't want to have to not be able to do things. I don't want to have to not be able to be active because my blood sugars are too high right now and I have to wait. Like, I didn't want rules. And it was the first time I really thought about how I wanted to cut off my nose to spite my face. And I thought, what a silly thing. And logically, I know everybody knows this. Nobody's like, You know what I really think is a good solution? I'm going to self-sabotage myself. That is the one way to get rid of all my problems. Nobody thinks that. Like, it's not a conscious decision a lot of times to self-sabotage. It's just amazing when you stop and think about it, and the fact that that's where our brains go. So exclusion, FOMO, anticipating, and longing, in my experience, have been the most bold topics. So let's break these down a little bit. So exclusion, friends, family, the 3 skinny girls who can eat anything they want. This is a great topic. So the first thing I want to talk about is the skinny girls who can eat anything. There are not very many of those. Now, the older you get, the less and less genuine one of those there is. So if someone tells you that they can eat anything they friggin' want, and you don't watch them, witness them eat anything they friggin' want all the time, and they're like this, the chances that they're bullshitting you are pretty high. But besides that, if they do eat like that, that is an anomaly. I feel your pain. They're freaks of nature. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I don't want you to think anybody who is smaller than you is that way because it's just their metabolism, though, either. I don't want to, the women you see on Instagram, a lot of them are women that some of my clients fawn after. And those women's entire lives revolve around maintaining that figure. Their entire day-to-day, their entire social life, their routines, how much they work out, the clothes they buy, the friends they make, everything falls in line with maintaining that image. Now, I'm not talking down on that. I personally don't think that that's 100% healthy, but to each their own. If you're mentally healthy and you can do that, great. But if you heard that and something in your stomach just turned because the thought of living and breathing to have a 6-pack is something that you just can't fathom, then know that you don't have to do that. But that's why those women stand out. That's why they're so special looking, is because they're special looking, because you don't see people like that every day. You don't see, that's not the norm. That's an amazing accomplishment for those who want to, work out and try and train. I'm not talking down on it. I just want you guys to think from the perspective of, it's not just me. It's that, that is really hard to maintain. And that comes with a lot of mental baggage too, maintaining that stuff. So please don't think anytime you see someone smaller than you, it's because the road paved to that body is just like lined with silk. Like it's a struggle. Women also carry more weight. I mean, like, we tend to make more fat. We store it in the hip and the stomach area. You just can't compare. Okay. So that's the first part. Second part, family and friends. Now, I don't have all of it doesn't show me everybody who's on when I'm doing the screen share. So I don't know if this client is on right now, but I was talking to a client yesterday about this, and I told her, she said her friends, who used to kind of not take it seriously, who would kind of like egg her on, like to drink or eat with them and stuff like that. The more serious that my client started taking the changes she was making, and that doesn't mean being like mad about it or anything, just taking it seriously, the more her friends and family began to take it seriously. So she went to that friend's house, and that friend went out of her way to get foods that she knew helped my client's hormones, foods that were friendly for her to have, that she can have while she's there. And I've experienced that with my friends as well. Many times when I host at my house and I have a potluck, it's one of my favorite things to do because it's an excuse to eat, but it's also an excuse for me to cook the hormone friendly stuff that I love making and be like, here, it's for everyone. But my friends catch on to that, and then they bring hormone friendly stuff over. Or when we go out to eat, they'll start saying things like, if we go, well, this is pre-COVID, can you eat stuff there? Little things. The more that we fear being excluded, the more we exclude ourselves. Our friends don't care about hanging out with us because we eat like them. Or at least they shouldn't. Our friends care about our family. Doesn't be like, oh, don't invite them to dinner anymore. Like, it's a pretty shitty family if they do that. It's just, remember, we continue to frame it to be our own worst enemy. like our own monster. We're this dark cloud of our own. Let go of that. People don't give a shit if you don't give a shit. Okay. FOMO, fear of missing out. That is a big one for me. I have OCD. I am a stickler for the details. I'm a stickler to know that something, I am seeing all angles of something. And if I make a decision, I want to make sure that I didn't like miss a detail that would have affected my decision. Like that's been a very big issue for me. So the FOMO of like, well, back in the day, how it translated to what we do is, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should go out. What if I get really tired? I'm really boring when we get out. Like I have enough energy to get dressed right now, I think. And you know what? I don't even care if I don't look. Have you ever done that before? You're like, I don't even care if I look bad. I'm just going to throw something on and go. An hour after you pillaged through your closet tells a different story. But just the fear of missing out puts so much additional stress, so much additional work, all of that behind enjoying something. Because what's the real reason that you are afraid to miss out? You're afraid to miss out on food, on an experience, on a chance to relax and have fun. But in doing that, you start to resent yourself because you feel like you're incapable of having fun. Even if the invite is there, even if it's a day where you could really get dressed and go, you're still moping about it. Don't let resentment towards your body and FOMO keep you in that state. If you say to yourself, I'm going to throw something on and go, throw something on and go and fake it till you make it, but be present. Or you stay home and have a blast at home. Like, I'm not being facetious. I'm truly enjoy being home, but make your decision from a place of, what do I feel like doing most? Okay. Anticipation. Waiting for the other shoe to drop. That's a big one. For me, it was really, really hard after I had, so with my neck, I've done a post about this a few times. Like I'm still working on driving. I'm laughing because my license expired right before COVID happened and I don't want to go to a DMV, but I'm still working on being able to drive again. After my neck injury, well, I shouldn't even call it an injury, negligence. I went to doctors. I needed help. My body felt achy. It felt like it was falling apart. I couldn't move the way I used to move. And then one day I woke up with excruciating pain that wouldn't stop. And it just went down my arm. There was nowhere I could put my arm to feel comfort. My fingertips started going numb, like all of this stuff. And every doctor I met just looked at me like I was nuts because I'm too young. What the hell does that mean? I'm too young to not have a whacked out spine? Stupid. But I got the runaround. Some doctors told me to do yoga, all this stuff. So finally, when I went to get when I convinced my doctor to convince my insurance company to do an MRI instead of an X-ray, they found that my spinal cord was like essentially cut off, basically. I had a ruptured disc that was so bad that they didn't even want to let me out of the MRI place. Like I had to get clearance from the radiologist in order to leave and not have to go to hospital. Which is like the worst experience, by the way, because the techs aren't allowed to tell you anything. They just made a huge deal and wouldn't let me leave. And I was like, am I dying? Can you just tell me that? Anyway, so long story short, my doctor reviews the MRI tape, doesn't call me. I call him like a week later to be like, yo, did you get my stuff? Like, I can't move, and he was like, he had his receptionist tell me, I heard him because he yelled it, have her call a surgeon. I can't help her. So I'm like, okay, that's great. I'm going to go get a second opinion. So I book an appointment with a neurologist who specializes in the spine. And he puts the disc in the computer and it freaks out, basically. He's like, did you get into a massive car accident? How did you get here? Don't move suddenly. Please sit down. Like, started freaking out. I was like, yeah, no, your doctor was right. You need surgery. So I go for I'm like, okay, well, I got to come back and meet the surgeon. That day comes and our car doesn't start. And the receptionist would not tell the doctor to hold on for 10 minutes so we can catch an Uber there. And we lost our appointment. So then I get I finally get in front of a different doctor on a last minute whim. And he looks at it and he goes, I can do surgery the day after tomorrow. And I was like, seems a little bit sudden, like I'm in a lot of pain, but I was so used to doctors just making me feel like I was insane for being as overly concerned as I was, that I didn't even trust them when they were telling me I needed surgery. I was like, I was just crazy. But hearing this doctor, who was a very good surgeon, very like renowned surgeon, look at me and say, if you don't do this surgery ASAP, you're not going to walk down the aisle. It's a medical miracle that you're not paralyzed. You should be paralyzed. I don't know how you're not paralyzed. And he prolonged his Christmas vacation, like he was leaving for Christmas. He prolonged that to be able to do my surgery the day after the next day. And my point to that, besides just like, bitching about my past, is after you go through something like that, and it could be varying degrees of medical neglect, which a lot of us is the reason why we're here, let's be honest, it really makes you feel like you have to be 10 steps ahead, because if you're not, you're going to miss something and it's going to get worse and nobody will listen to you. And what will you do then? I get that anxiety wholeheartedly. It makes you begin to feel powerless. Are you up? So, and are you okay? Text me if you need me. If you need to duck out of this convo, it's a little intense, you could text me. I'm sorry. But it's a lot, when you have to deal with being your own advocate, you have to deal with telling doctors like, no, I'm not making it up. I'm not crazy. I really feel this difference. It really sticks with you, and it becomes really difficult to think of anything as good, that anything good can happen to you, because you're so busy being prepared to not allow the bad. It doesn't have to mean that you're afraid of bad things happening to you. It just means that you become hyper fixated on avoiding bad things happening. That takes up such a chunk of your life and so much energy. And it doesn't allow you to feel any type of good about yourself, because how could you rely on you? But the solution to that is you have no choice but to live these days anyway. And barring, am I ever going to go skiing? No, but am I ever going to do like a headstand, a yoga sequence where I have to balance on my head? No. Am I always going to feel a little bit like, if I get a stiff neck or a little bit of like, radicular pain, which could happen after? Of course, my brain's going to go there. But if you live in a place where you feel your body has to constantly dictate what you're allowed to do, you are going to miss the better part of your life in precaution. Longing, missing a simpler time. I hear this all the time. I have been there myself as well, where I've thought back to some other part of this journey or whatever, and it seemed way more enticing than what's been going on. But honestly, all that is taking the pain that you're feeling now and feeling like you have to scapegoat it to something. Because if you can say it used to be so much better, then it's somewhere to put that pain. You know what I mean? But chances are, don't bullshit me. Chances are, even back in the day during those simpler times that you now long for, you were dissatisfied with something. I hear this quote. I want to say every other, the 60-minute call that we all did together, every other one of those, I hear this quote. I wish I could be as the size that I was back when I used to think I was fat. I used to I used to crack on my body all the time. I used to try and diet. I was so, I thought I was so fat. And now I look back at those pictures and I'm like, oh, I wish I could go back there. I hear that so much. And it's just a way to make yourself feel like crap. That's essentially it. Because at that time, if you force yourself to think back at that time, I am sure you weren't dancing around lampposts in the streets, celebrating your bod either, right? So what's that? What do you do with that hindsight? Do you just let it torture you, or do you use it and say, wow, if that is not an example of how we can stop ourselves from really enjoying the moment, I don't know what is. I'm not going to do that again. There's no reason I can't like myself right now. There's no reason I can't at least be at peace and stop doing this nasty shit to myself. You know, the longing for a simpler time, all it is making you not focus on what you can do right now to get to where you want to be. Missing the past isn't going to propel you forward ever. It's just going to really make you feel like crap. Not wanting to be the sad fat girl. Okay. That is a twofold thing. Either, and it always comes back down to vulnerability. And now you can be any size and think that and feel that. I have had clients who are a natural size 0 talk about how big and gross they're feeling in their bodies, and the changes that they feel, and how out of control they feel. So I don't want any of us to be any body shaming any thin girls here, because there are thin girls with PCOS and Hashimoto's, you know, but that feeling of not wanting to be that girl, like the one who's dieting, the one who's sad, the one who's fatigued, who has issues, she needs special care, you know, like nobody wants to be that girl. But I hope there's no kids. Fuck that. Like that is such a limiting way of feeling. And I've been there. I have so been there. I'm like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. I'm just going to avoid eating in front of people, because I don't want to be on a new diet. And I don't want to be, why are you eating that? Shouldn't you be dieting? You know, and I just want to exist and be able to eat and not be analyzed. So I would eat alone, or I would skip it, and I would just try to do something else, you know, besides eat with my friends. Like, I want to say even back in high school, I would just try to keep myself busy during lunch. Or I would be a troublemaker, and I would be using humor to deflect from how miserable I was. So, you know, keep thinking about these things. Who thinks that you're the sad fat girl? Are you the sad fat girl? You decide that. The only thing wrong with that sentence is sad, to be honest with you. So you decide who you are. And if the people around you want to peg you as anything, don't talk to them, because they obviously don't know you. If that's the only thing that they could surmise by looking at you is that you're the sad fat girl, then consider yourself losing a ton of weight when you cut them the hell out of your life. Get rid of shitty people who make you feel shitty. It is the best weight you could lose. And another tip for that is tone is everything. A big part of owning your journey and not letting it make you resent what you go through, what you deal with, what's different about your life. A big part of that is get rid of the shame about talking about it. Get rid of the shame about mentioning in casual conversation that something's going to mess up your ovaries or something's going to mess up your thyroid. Start including that without it being a sad thing necessarily, because that is my sadness of my illnesses is not something I need to share with anybody besides who I want to share it with. I share it when I need to with my therapist, with Nick, you know, with people that I can trust, people that I know go through. And even then, maybe that's selectively too. But own who you are. The more shame you feel about the differences you need in your life and how you live your life, the more weird people around you are. It is self-perpetuated to not be completely comfortable with who you are. But it takes time to get there. I know that. I'm not saying, poof, you get off the Zoom and everyone's good, you know, but keep this in mind. When it comes to tone, I don't share my sadness with everyone, but when I talk about it, I'll talk about it casual. And what I mean by that is, if somebody makes, I hate this comment, it pisses me off, but if someone goes, that's all you're eating? What do you want me to say? Yeah, no, I plan on going back for fourths if you're going to keep count. Like, I hate that comment. It drives me insane. But if somebody's like, oh, that's all you're having, I will literally just be like, no. And then you'll be like, You know, like, I don't care. You're the one who asked the awkward question. Or if people are like, oh, I heard that whatever you're doing for your eating, blah, 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 just doesn't work. It's bad for you. Because everybody has an opinion now, you know. You could be eating bonbons all day. They got nothing to say. But the second that you try something for your hormones, everyone is a nutritionist. But you know, when someone's like, I heard this, that, the other thing, I literally will respond, oh, it's interesting. You don't have to engage anybody in what you're doing. You know, if you're eating something and, you know, you're trying to, let's say you're entering, I got a client told me they were entering something into Carb Manager the other day. And somebody said something about how they shouldn't use Carb Manager. They should do MyFitnessPal. They should join this challenge on Facebook that they're doing. They should do this weird like soup thing for 2 days. And like all of this. And my client was like, it got me feeling really bad. Like I'm not doing enough because as you all know, we go slow, you know? And in that situation, oh my God, it's so intense. It's so, and everybody loves to give their opinion on bodies and food. And it's just, but how you say something is the vibe that it puts out. So if you say something and the vibe that it puts out is that you feel ashamed or upset or annoyed or anything like that, that's what's coming back to you. That's the connotation you're giving off. If the tone that you give is that you could literally not give a shit and you're just answering because it would be rude if you didn't, then people drop it. And if they don't, you can just be like, I don't feel like talking about food. And then you ask a question. Doesn't have to be mean. It could just be about them, you know, like, so how are the kids adjusting with remote learning? You don't even have to give a damn what she says, you know, but just say something to kind of put the focus back on them and keep it moving. It's a double-edged sword, you know. I feel like women are just painted to be the bitches if they don't go along or just go with the flow and, you know, not assert a boundary. But you don't have to be bitchy. Just keep your tone up, you know. Give as much as you're willing to give and keep it moving. So let me see this chat here. Tell me what you guys, I want to hear from y'all that are watching this. What is connecting with you? What did you hear that's like, yes, damn. Because, you know, I know that you guys probably know a lot of this logically. It's the reminder that's important, and it's the putting them to examples that's really important, because you're going to experience this again and again. Making peace with your body when your body has ailments is not easy, and it's not quick. It is a journey. As cheesy as the word is, it is a journey. So let's see. I definitely think too much every time I go out. Multiple outfits every time. Yep, I remember. I used to have just piles and piles of clothes in my room, and it was like hoarding status. It looked like I wouldn't wear any of it either. Somehow everything that once looked good enough for me to buy, I hated. Okay. I blamed my relationship ending a lot on not being able to do things with him much anymore. I used to eat my pizza in line before I ever sat down. You know, that's the other thing too. You know, don't, the people who love you enough to love you through your illness will not be inconvenienced out of your life by it. They won't take it personal because you have to care for your health. They want you to care for your health. You know, having to stay in, and part of that's the exclusion part that I mentioned. Say you want to go out with your friends, but you've got to stay in. You're so exhausted, you just cannot bring yourself to it. Or you know that if you do go out, it's going to be pushing it too much, and you just don't know how to say no because you've already said no the last time. If you can't be real with your friend and be like, I know this may seem really flaky. Trust me, it's upsetting me that I can't come out. But I have to stay in. I'm really not feeling well. You know, and if your friends ever say anything to you about that, by all means, send them the research, send them the information, copy a link from online, you know, like if they're like, oh, you're always so tired, send them freaking WebMD, what Hashimoto's or PCOS is. Inundate them with information. Don't be afraid of upsetting them. They're coming at you about an illness. And that is twofold with partners. For us, If anyone were to say to us, you get a second chance, you get a choice right now. Do you want what the body, do you want this body with all its ailments and everything? Oh my God, all of us would get a refund immediately. I'd be like, I would love a functioning pancreas, you know? Our partners get that choice. They get that choice that we don't have. We are stuck with this stuff. So if a partner continues to choose you every day and choose your illness every day, they deserve to be with you. You deserve to be with them. If somebody makes you feel like they need to weigh their options to decide if it's worth the hassle, make the decision for them. And Mo, you and I will talk privately more in depth about this. I know that it's a very different situation, but in general, know that if somebody doesn't know to make the choice and it be you because of your illness, there are people out there who will, and it has nothing to do with you at that point. But it is normal to feel very upset and hurt by it. I had an ex who used to tell me that he didn't know why he was still with me, because I was old. I made him feel old. I was old. I was no fun. He'd have to make up lies to his friends to explain why I wouldn't go out with them when the other girlfriends would go out. And I remember sitting there and just being like, why is my body such a shit show that I can't even go out with friends? I'm like, in my early 20s, this is what I should be doing. And now I look back and I'm like, what an asshole. Like, how about he suggested we stay in and get a bottle of wine and watch some Netflix? No, because he was boring. He sucked at conversation. Now that I look back, I'm like, but keep that in mind. That exclusion is real. People at work who make comments about your food, their food, you know what? Tell them to mind their own plates. Because I have found that some of the people who are the most vocal about food eat like shit. Like they eat, I don't want to say like shit, but like they're the ones that are bringing just like a frozen meal for lunch. It's just like, okay, Chef Boyardee, why are you criticizing me? So I really just didn't fit in an office, clearly. I couldn't keep my face quiet, I should say. Because I'd get those comments too, and I'd be like, people saying stupid shit to me, that's none of their business. I eat before I go to my in-laws because I don't want to hear their comments, and I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop in life. Sounds like you connected to it. Yeah, I feel you. I literally have had to have fights where I've gotten up and walked out of family dinners because I've been like, how many times have I said to you, I don't need to know that everybody's monitoring my plate. It took a while to get to that point because I don't like confrontation at all. But I've been there. I would love to look like I did 15 years ago, but I used to fat shame myself back then. I want to shake her and tell her how hot she is. Yeah, girl, remember that. And you know what? 15 years from now, you're going to look back and you're going to be like, oh my God, I had it so, but like or you'll learn and you will enjoy the next 15 years and relish in being present in the next 15 years. And whatever it is that you look like or appear, you'll find that same value and enjoy the next 15 years. Don't look back with a comparison, but unless you work on that now, you 100% will. Imagine all of us age in 15 years from now. Okay? I look at old pictures and wonder what the hell I was thinking because I would kill to go back to, isn't it crazy? I realize I've come farther than I thought. I have totally been that girl that, yes, you have, by the way, Lindsay, you 100% have. We have to I want to talk to you because I want to record. I want to do something where we record a Zoom or something and talk about your transformation because it's been amazing. I wished I was as far as I was when I first thought I was fat, but I'm probably 10 times more confident and happy now, even 50 pounds heavier, all because my mindset has changed. There's no rule that stipulates because we deal with shit with our bodies, we can't be happy. There will be times you'll naturally be upset. It sucks to deal with illness. It's hard. It's a permanent job. But there is so much good between. There is so much happiness and room for that happiness between those shitty moments. just about finding them. I can't believe I ever thought I was fat back then. At a certain point, I was underweight, and that's when I was being told I look great. That sucks. I have definitely, like, when I was a lot younger, I went through periods of time where I just wouldn't eat. I would like egg myself on. I'd be like, yeah, 3 days, you know, like, and then I would binge, of course. I don't, the only thing I was consuming was orange juice for my low blood sugars constantly, you know? Um, so I lost a lot of like unhealthy weight. You could see my stomach, of course, that shit never went anywhere. You know, but you would start to see like weird bones popping out and stuff like that. And that's when I would get people saying like, oh, you look great. Have you been working out? You know, like, oh, you know, what have you been doing? And like, I'm 16, I haven't eaten in 4 days. Like, that's what I did, you know? And it just goes to show how toxic society is. Just weight loss is so celebrated, you know? Drives me nuts. Okay, so how are we on time? I'm always over on time. So I want you guys to think about these lessons, especially over the weekend, especially over the browsing, the Instagram browsing, the Pinterest browsing, the whatever browsing. And I want you, if you need to, go back and replay this and just remember that we hold the key to being miserable or not when it comes to resenting our illnesses and resenting our body. Each of us are still here. Each of us, you know, I mean, no one can 100% know, like, we're willing, we'll be here tomorrow. And we have to live these days again and again and again. So at the very least, if we are going to be tasked with having a harder go of it than others, we shouldn't continue to make it harder on ourselves and not enjoy the time that we have in the way in which we can enjoy it. Okay, so if you want to talk anything else about this afterwards, you know, I'll be available for a little bit longer tonight. Tomorrow I'll be delayed in responding back. Just Saturdays are usually my days off. Doesn't mean don't text me, because I get to them when I can, Sunday or at night on Saturday. So enjoy the rest of your Friday night. Enjoy your weekend. And I am here if you need me, right? So bye.